Welcome to another deep dive.
Mm.
Today, we're going to be looking at resilience, and perspective through kind of a real-life story.
Oh, okay.
And the source material we have is this clip from a talk by the Islamic scholar Ustadz Hanan Attaki.
Okay.
And in this clip, a man named Sagara is sharing his experiences with 3 relationships that didn't work out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's seeking advice, basically.
Yeah.
And what I found so interesting about this is how much Sagara's story just resonates with the audience.
Yeah.
You can really hear their reactions, like, as he's talking.
Mhm.
And it really shows you how common these struggles are.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people go through this kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, who hasn't, had a relationship not work out?
Exactly. And, Sagara's vulnerability, it really seemed to touch people in that room.
It did. It did.
So let's just dive into his
Oh,
story.
yeah. Okay.
So Sagara is 31 years old,
Okay.
and he's had these 3 significant setbacks, in his search for a partner. The first relationship he talks about actually progressed pretty far.
Okay.
They'd met each other's families.
Yeah.
Things seemed like they were headed towards marriage,
Right.
but ultimately, Sagara was left feeling like he was the second choice, is how he put it.
Oh, man. I bet that was really tough.
Yeah, to feel like, you're not someone's first priority
Right.
when you've invested so much, emotionally.
Yeah, for sure.
And fortunately, his second relationship, it kind of followed a similar pattern. So they got pretty far. They had 2 family meetings,
Wow.
but the woman's parents just weren't on board.
Oh.
They weren't in favor of the relationship.
So twice now. He's gotten pretty far down the line, and it's just not worked out.
Exactly.
I can imagine how discouraging that must feel.
Yeah. And then his third relationship, this one takes like a really heartbreaking turn.
Ah.
So he decided to deepen this relationship without involving families right away. But then the woman actually passed away.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it's understandable why he's just feeling lost.
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah. I mean, after going through all that, it's totally understandable. You'd start to question yourself.
Yeah. He even says, he feels like partners are being taken away from him,
Wow.
like either by other people or by God.
Yeah.
And then on top of all of this, he's also dealing with the expectations of his family.
Right.
His family naturally wants to see him, settle down and all that. Of course. And, that pressure can be a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine. It adds another layer of complexity to, an already hard situation.
Exactly. Exactly. And so it's in this moment where he's being so vulnerable that Ustadz Hanan Attaki offers him like a totally different perspective.
Interesting.
He reassures Sagara and really emphasizes that these experiences, yeah, they're painful, but they're not failures.
Okay.
They're opportunities.
Okay.
Opportunities for learning and growing.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I'm curious, how does he explain this idea?
Well, he uses this really interesting analogy.
Oh, okay.
He compares learning from relationship setbacks to learning how to ride a horse.
Learning to ride a horse?
Yeah, when you're first starting out, like, falling off is almost inevitable.
Okay, so I've never actually ridden a horse, but yeah, I can see that. But how does falling off a horse, actually make you a better rider?
It's about learning how to fall safely so you don't get hurt badly.
Okay.
You get back up each time you fall, and you're more cautious.
Right.
And you figure out, like, how to prevent a worse fall next time.
So he's saying that each of Sagara's, relationship setbacks is like a fall.
Yeah.
It's a difficult experience, but you learn something from it.
Right.
You learn something about yourself and about, relationships in general.
Exactly. You're building up that resilience with each fall, and you gain wisdom about, how to approach things the next time.
Yeah. And that's such an interesting way to look at, what could feel like just a bunch of failures. And it makes me think about times in my own life, where things haven't worked out the way I planned.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe those times, weren't failures.
Right.
Maybe they were just opportunities to learn and grow.
Exactly.
And Ustadz Hanan Attaki goes on to connect this idea, of learning from setbacks to the women that Sagara was involved with.
Oh,
He points to that they're also learning and growing
yeah.
through these experiences. So it's not just about Sagara,
Right.
right? It's about, each relationship is this shared experience. It shapes both people.
And in the case of the woman who passed away, he offers a really, really moving perspective. He says that according to Islamic belief, she was destined for marriage in heaven.
Wow. That's beautiful. It's a way to make sense of
Yeah.
such a tragic loss. It gives comfort and meaning within their faith.
Yeah, it's a reminder that, different belief systems can offer comfort and understanding during those difficult times.
Yeah. But what about, the pressure that Segarra mentioned feeling from his family?
Yeah, that's something a lot of people can relate to, regardless of their background.
It's pretty universal.
For sure.
To feel that pressure, from loved ones who want to see you happy, settle down.
Exactly.
I'm curious, how does Ustaz Hanan Attaki address this?
Well, this is where he brings in two important Islamic concepts, uzla and hijra. Now, it's important to understand he's not saying that Segarra should ignore his family or their concerns.
Okay.
He's advising him to set healthy boundaries.
Oh, so it's about finding a balance
Right.
between honoring his family's wishes and also, protecting his own emotional well-being.
Exactly.
Did he give him any, practical tools?
Oh, he did. He gave him specific phrases he can use when family asks about his relationship status.
Oh, like what?
Things like, "Don't worry, there will be a time for that, just pray for me."
Okay.
Or, "I'm working on it, pray for me."
Oh, okay. That's a good way to kind of deflect the pressure.
Yeah.
But still reassure his family that he hears them.
Exactly.
And what's so interesting is how Ustaz Hanan Attaki is reframing those questions from his family.
Right.
He's encouraging Segarra to see them not as attempts to, control him or pressure him, but as acts of love and concern.
Mm-hmm.
He's reminding him that his parents are asking because they care,
Yeah.
even if it doesn't always feel good.
Right.
And that's an important point
Yeah.
because it encourages understanding, on both sides.
Yes. It's not a confrontation.
Right.
It's an expression of family love.
Yeah, and that ties into this whole idea of perspective,
Mm-hmm.
which we talked about.
Yeah.
It's about shifting from seeing these setbacks as failures to seeing them as learning experiences.
Exactly.
And then instead of feeling burdened by family pressure, you see it as an expression of love.
It really can be powerful,
Yeah,
that shift in perspective.
totally. And it's something we can all, use in our lives.
Oh.
It's so easy to get caught up, in the negativity and lose sight of the big picture.
Yeah.
So Ustaz Hanan Attaki's advice is really refreshing.
It is.
It's empowering.
Yeah.
It offers a way to approach challenges, not just in relationships, but just in life.
Yeah, for sure.
But there's a lot more to talk about, with this clip.
Okay.
And I'm really interested in hearing how he talks about the concept of jodo,
Oh, yeah.
which is this idea in Islam of a divinely ordained soulmate.
Right.
That's a fascinating part of the conversation, and we'll definitely dive into that in part 2. We'll explore how that concept of jodo can offer comfort and guidance in the search for love.
Okay, sounds good. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and we'll also talk about how it can help us understand those relationships that maybe don't last forever.
Okay, great.
So join us for part 2 as we continue our deep dive into this insightful conversation between Ustaz Hanan Attaki and Segarra.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. As we were finishing up part 1.
I was thinking about how much of Ustaz Hanan Attaki's advice
Right.
applies to not just romantic relationships, but just any area of life where we experience setbacks.
Yeah, totally.
You know?
That's true.
It's really universal, his
Yeah.
message about learning from failure and,
It is.
building resilience.
Yeah.
But you're right. We are about to get into this concept of jodo,
Yeah, yeah.
which is specific to Islamic teaching.
Right.
And it's often translated as soulmate or divine destiny.
Right.
So I'm curious to know how this concept plays into Segarra's situation
Yeah.
and what it might mean for those of us who aren't familiar with Islamic beliefs.
Okay, well, essentially, Jodo is the belief that God has already chosen the perfect partner for each person.
Okay.
And it's not just about romantic love.
Ugh.
It's about all kinds of significant relationships
Okay.
in our lives.
So if someone is struggling to find love,
Yeah.
does that mean they haven't met their jodo yet?
Well, Ustaz Hanan Attaki emphasizes that just because Segarra hasn't found lasting love yet
Right.
doesn't mean he won't.
Okay.
It might just mean the timing's not right.
That's comforting in a way,
It is.
to think that, there's a plan, even if we don't know it.
It takes the pressure off a little bit,
Yeah, it does. It does.
but it also brings up some interesting questions.
Like,
Well,
Which-
like what about the relationships Segarra's already had?
Right.
If they didn't work out, does that mean those women weren't his Jodo?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
How does the concept of jodo explain
Yeah.
those relationships that don't lead to marriage,
Right.
you know?
He explains that everyone is on their own Jodo journey. And sometimes those paths intersect
Okay.
for a certain reason,
Okay.
even if it's not meant to be a lifelong thing.
So those relationships, even the ones that didn't last,
Mm-hmm.
maybe they served a purpose in his life.
Right.
And in those women's lives.
Exactly. They could have been opportunities for growth or learning about themselves
Okay.
and discovering what they value in a partner.
Yeah, it's almost like all the relationships, even the ones that don't work out,
Yeah,
contribute to this overall journey
it does.
and helps us become who we're supposed to be.
It's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah,
And it goes back to that idea of reframing setbacks as learning opportunities.
right.
But there's another important aspect I think we need to address,
Okay.
the role of societal expectations.
Cigar brought that up too.
He did.
He was talking about the pressure from his family to get married.
Yeah. And that's something I think a lot of us can relate to,
Yeah.
regardless of our cultural background.
Hmm.
There's this unspoken timeline.
Yeah.
You know, you're supposed to be married by this age,
Right.
have kids by this age.
Yeah, it's tough to navigate,
It is.
especially when those expectations don't line up
Right,
with
right.
our own timelines or desires.
Right. So did he offer any guidance on that?
Yeah, he cautioned Sagara about letting those pressures make his decisions.
Mm-hmm.
He really emphasized, staying true to himself
Yeah.
and trusting his intuition
Okay.
rather than conforming
Right.
to what other people expect.
That's good advice.
It is, but it's hard to put into practice,
It is.
especially when it's your family.
Exactly. But he does offer some strategies.
Look what.
Well, he says setting healthy boundaries is really important
Okay.
and open and honest communication
Okay.
with family.
So being able to explain
Yes.
your feelings in a way that's respectful,
Exactly.
even if it's different from what they want.
Finding that middle ground.
Right.
Honoring your family's values.
Okay.
While also being true to your own path.
It seems like there's a lot of good advice here,
There is,
You know.
yeah.
not just for Sagara,
Mm-hmm.
but for all of us.
It's encouraging us to redefine what success means
Yeah.
and to create a life that feels authentic,
Yeah.
even if it's different from what society expects.
Yeah. I think that's a key takeaway.
I agree.
Reclaiming our own narratives
Yes.
and making choices
Mm-hmm.
that align with what's important to us.
Yeah, but remember, Sagara was also struggling with the spiritual side of things.
Right. He was questioning why this was happening to him,
Yeah.
wondering if he was being punished.
Mm-hmm.
So how does Ustadz Hanan Attaki address that?
That's where it gets really interesting. So in part 3,
Okay.
we're going to talk about how he connects Sagara's challenges to his spiritual journey.
Okay.
And he offers this framework for understanding trials as opportunities
Okay.
for growth and deepening our connection with God.
As we get into this last part, of our deep dive,
Yeah,
I'm struck by how much we've already covered.
it's been a journey.
We've talked about the emotional weight
Right.
of relationship setbacks,
Mm-hmm.
the idea of seeing failure as learning,
Yeah,
and balancing our own needs
Right.
with what our families expect of us.
for sure.
But in this last part, we're going to look at the spiritual dimension
Okay.
of Sagara's story. Remember, he was really struggling
Yeah.
with why he was going through all this
Right.
and what it meant
Yeah.
for his relationship with God. He even wondered if he was being punished.
Yeah, it's a natural human response.
It is.
When you're going through a hard time,
Yeah.
why is this happening to me?
And Ustadz Hanan Attaki,
Hmm.
he tackles this question directly.
Yeah.
He explains that in Islam,
Yeah.
trials are seen as tests from God.
Okay.
And they're not meant to break us,
Right.
but to actually make our faith stronger
Okay.
and to purify our hearts.
So it's a different way of looking at it?
It is.
Instead of a punishment,
Yeah.
it's an opportunity.
Exactly. And he really emphasizes that God never gives us more
Mm-hmm.
than we can handle.
Right.
He says that the strength
Yeah.
and the resilience to overcome anything
Mm-hmm.
is already within us.
It's like that theme of resilience keeps coming up.
It does.
It's not just about bouncing back from
Yeah.
tough times, but also using those experiences to deepen our faith
Yeah.
and our connection with God.
That's beautifully put.
And for Sagara,
Yeah.
Ustadz Hanan Attaki is encouraging him to look at these setbacks,
Right.
not as punishment,
Mm-hmm.
but as ways to understand
Okay.
God's love and mercy.
So instead of asking, why me?
Yeah,
He's saying, ask, what's
Ah.
God trying to teach me?
exactly.
It's a real shift
It is.
from feeling like a victim
Yeah.
to taking control.
It's about seeing that.
Yeah.
Even in our pain, there's a chance to grow.
It's powerful.
It is.
It takes what feels very personal
Right.
and connects it to something bigger.
Exactly.
It gives you hope
Mm.
even when you're struggling.
And he reminds Sagara
Yeah.
that God's plan is always for our own good,
Okay.
even if we can't see it.
It's about trusting
Yes.
that there's this bigger picture,
Mm-hmm.
even when things feel chaotic.
Yeah, just trusting the journey even when you don't know where it's going.
So as we finish up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what are the key takeaways?
What can we learn
Yeah.
from Sagara's story and Ustadz Hanan Attaki's advice?
I think the biggest one is changing how we see setbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of failures or punishments,
Right.
we can see them as chances to grow spiritually,
Yeah.
to connect with God.
It's about looking deeper,
Exactly.
finding the hidden meaning.
Yeah,
And it's about that resilience again.
it is.
Not just a coat,
Right.
but to make our spirit stronger.
Yeah, resilience isn't about avoiding the hard stuff.
Right.
It's about learning how to go through it
Mm.
with grace,
Yeah. Yeah.
knowing we have the strength to overcome it.
And I think this conversation also reminds us there's a purpose to our lives.
Okay.
This plan.
Yeah.
That's for our good, even if we don't get it right now.
It's a powerful reminder
It is.
that even in heartbreak,
Yeah.
there's always hope and growth
Mm.
and a deeper connection
Yeah.
waiting to be found.
I think this deep dive has been great.
I agree.
We've explored so much about relationships, resilience, and perspective.
Sagara's story
Yeah.
and Ustadz Hanan Attaki's wisdom
Mm-hmm.
give us a guide
They do.
for dealing with life's challenges.
With grace.
Yeah.
Faith.
It's a reminder that even when we're disappointed,
Yeah.
we can find hope and growth
Always.
and a deeper connection.
We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive
Yeah, we hope it's given you something to think about.
and maybe a new way to see your own experiences.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.